Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day so I can get some of that dirty YouTube money and be able to afford to provide you folks hands-on technology education. So I do something called Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We do in-person hands-on technology education that is free to the end user. You show up, you learn, you do stuff, you go the hell away. We do this in Durham, North Carolina. We did a class a couple of days ago. We're doing another class in a couple of weeks. If you're interested, take a look at silicondojo.com. And, oh boy, 2025. Remember when we all thought 2021 was the dumpster fire? We're like, oh my golly, 2021, such a dumpster fire. And then we went into 2022. And then there's 2023, and then there's 2024. And now we're in 2025. Like, what is a dumpster fire when it just keeps on going forever? So I kind of think this is interesting simply because it's curious nowadays how political our tech titans are becoming. They are really throwing their hats into the political ring, which I find to be a weird thing, right? That whole Michael Jordan deal, apparently why he said he didn't get into politics is because Republicans buy basketball shoes too. And the interesting things that I find nowadays is, especially with Musk being out there, like anything that Musk does, everybody else has to do too. And since he decided to get political, everybody else is getting political too. And it's just so weird. And the weird thing now is this whole thing with deploying National Guard troops, right? So the Trump administration deployed the National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. They deployed them to Los Angeles. They want to deploy them to Chicago. Like, they're deployed to Chicago, but they can't actually go on the streets. I don't know. They want to deploy them to Portland. And it's very weird because the thing is, it's not that I disagree that these places have problems, but National Guard troops are an inappropriate solution for those particular problems. One of the problems we have with the Call of Duty generation is so many folks have never actually served in the military. They have never actually handled a fucking weapon with the purpose of using it what it's for. They don't really realize that martial skills or whatever. There's different skill sets that are appropriate for different situations. So you may look at somebody with a gun and body armor, and you're like, oh, they are a soldier or they are a police officer, right? So you can send that person into almost any situation. The issue is that there's different skill sets for people with body armor and weapons, right? If you're an infantry soldier, your goal is to take the fucking hill, right? You're not going to debate with the enemy. You're not going to try to, basically your concept of de-escalation is double tapping center mass every motherfucker that's on the other side, right? You and your buddies are going to take the hill, and butt stroke to the head is a legitimate concept in that situation, right? Where you have police officers. Police officers don't have to take hills. They don't have to take hills. They can sit back. They can have some coffee. They can figure out what the situation is, again, with hostages or whatever else. They're dealing with law enforcement functionality. It's not about killing the opponent. It's about arresting the opponent, which is a different skill set, and then taking them to court and proving why the opponent was a bad person. Right? There's armed security, right? And armed security is you have some, property, right, that you are defending, and basically they are there to defend it. They're not going to take the hill, more or less. They're not going to be going out and arresting people. They have a facility. If anybody comes onto the facility and does something stupid, they have to deal with it. But frankly, if somebody's doing something stupid 20 feet outside their facility, it doesn't really matter. Dealing drugs 20 feet outside the facility, not their fucking problem, right? And that's one of the important things to understand about these folks is there are different skill sets. And it's not just different skill sets, but you want different mentalities, right? If I have an infantry soldier, I do not want that motherfucker thinking about de-escalation. I don't want, right, that grunt thinking about the person that they're going to put a bullet in as a human being. Right? You want them to butt stroke to the head. Names I cannot say on here because I would be canceled. Right? That's the thing. They're not humans. Literally, as a soldier, you dehumanize the other side. You are not killing people, you're killing creatures, if you even consider them a creature. Again, one of the things you'll notice a lot about is like things like destroying tanks, destroying aircrafts, putting a missile into an aircraft carrier or whatever. You'll notice, right? You're talking about the physical object. I destroyed a tank. I shot down an aircraft. They're not talking about the human beings in there, because as soon as you start talking about the human being, then it becomes this whole psychological thing. Anyways, there was a great book. It is called On Killing. If you want to understand the psychological implications and all that kind of stuff of human beings actually trying to kill other people, it was actually written by a veteran. Very interesting. There's this book, On Killing. If you want to understand killing, read that book. So anyways, the curious thing is, right, the Trump administration wants to send the National Guard to all these places, and it's simply inappropriate. Even, again, and this is where my problem is with a 30,000 view of the Trump administration, even if you say, and again, I would agree with, I think you need to flood many of these places with federal resources, right? The federal government has resources that the local governments do not have, and they can do things at a scale that the local governments cannot do, right? So if you flooded these places with federal personnel, I think that would be a good idea. Like back in the 90s, when I was getting my criminal justice degree and I was part of the military and all that kind of different thing, we had programs in the United States to take police officers who had experience, and we shipped them all over the world. So you can make a lot of money as a police officer going to Kosovo, right? So the thing was, you had a civil war, everything breaks apart, you need to reestablish, a civilian order, their police departments and all that kind of stuff weren't up to snuff. So it was like, hey, we are going to take experienced police officers from the United States, we'll ship you over to Kosovo for a year or two, basically do a duty cycle over there. And the idea is you bring in people that believe in the Constitution. You bring in people that believe in the due process of law and all that kind of stuff. And the idea is then you help try to build the police forces there. So think about this like with Chicago or Baltimore or other places. Imagine if you could flood with police officers, right? Police officers are trained, or should be trained, to a certain standard of care and to do specific vocational tasks. And so you bring them in. So imagine if, like in Baltimore, right, you have the police officers and they're dealing with everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to flood the area, we're going to flood the zone with police officers. And the thing is, since Baltimore has their own law, so like one of the problems in the United States is we have all these different laws, right? You have the federal law and the state law and the municipal law and the city law and all that kind of stuff. So here's the thing, right? You bring in somebody from New Orleans or whatever else, they're not going to know a lot of the specifics of the law. Look, but you know what they can do? They can do speed checks. They can do DWI checks. There are a lot of laws that are more or less the same, right? Basically, you blow into a breathalyzer. If you do it in New Orleans, you might have to do like 0.1% in order to have a DUI. In Baltimore, it's 0.08%. And so basically all you do is you're like, blow into the breathalyzer. Okay, you're above the number, you get arrested. So flood the zone with police officers to take the low-level, simple criminal issues that come up, so that you can take the actual Baltimore City police force, have them focus on, the murders and the rapes and the burglaries and the problems that are really having major issues in Baltimore City, and that's a good idea, right? You have a lot of drug problems, right? Fentanyl, right? We're off murdering Venezuelans right now in order to prevent the fentanyl, the drug issue. The problem in our society is our society isn't great. A lot of people turn to drugs because they can't find relief other ways. Flood the zone with mental health personnel. Again, it's funny with the Republicans. Fuck the Republicans. Fuck those castrated pieces of shit. Every time there's gun violence, they say it's not the gun, it is the person. The real issue is mental health in the United States. And so, since the Republicans all agree the real problem is mental health in the United States, you know how much fucking money they spend to fund a world-class mental health system. No, not at all, right? Anyways, and so the thing is, I mean, it's important. This is where my frustration with Trump really comes, is again, from the 30,000-foot view, the concept of putting federal assets into an area, I think makes a lot of sense. The National Guard is simply not a good tool for this particular job. And so that's where it becomes interesting now, where you have the the tech oligarchy who really likes the idea of sending the military in to quash the masses of disgusting people that they don't like dealing with, right? Oh, I don't like dealing with the drugs. I don't like dealing with the homelessness. I don't like dealing with the consequences of the society that I created. Right, again, because one of the things you'll notice with Musk and a lot of these other people, how much are they investing into housing? Again, think about these companies. This guy is worth $500 billion. Have you heard about his housing company? Right, you hear about the boring company, you hear about rocket ships, you hear about Neuralinks, you hear about that kind of thing, worth $500 billion. $500 billion, supposedly the smartest guy on the planet. And yet where's anything to do with housing policy? Like, when you're paying your employees so much money, it drives the cost of everything in the area up through the stratosphere so that normal people can no longer afford housing and things. But you don't want to deal with that. Right? Let's see. Should we have more housing built, or should we send in soldiers to butt stroke fucking homeless people? Elon Musk wants to send in soldiers. Mark Beinoff wants to send in soldiers. And this is a very, very weird world. So anyways, this is coming from like the San Francisco Chronicle. Quote, the only solution, Elon Musk backs calls to deploy federal troops to San Francisco. Yeah, it's the only solution. It's the only solution. Motherfuckers worth $500 billion, and the only solution is to send soldiers in to deal with things like the homeless crisis. Yeah, can't build housing. I mean, look, Eli, we could build housing, or we could send in soldiers. So yeah, this is going to be weird, and I think it's going to be a big issue for the tech world. Like, I've been talking with recruiters and a lot of other folks that are kind of like tangent. They're in the tech world, but they're not geeks. And one of the interesting things that a lot of them have said is that a lot of young people nowadays don't actually want to go into the tech world. And it's not about the jobs. This was actually before this whole disaster with the job market going on, but that it's no longer. The technology world is no longer seen as sexy. It's no longer seen as a force of good, right? The idea that I try to present of, you build these systems in order to solve problems. So many people nowadays, some of the young people nowadays, they don't see technology as a way to solve problems. They simply see this as a way for the oligarchs to make another $1 billion and oppress the masses. And so the curious thing, again, with Mark Beinoff and with Elon Musk coming out with these ideas of the only solution to the homeless and drug issues in San Francisco is to send in troops, right? A $500 trillionaire is saying the only solution is to send in troops. Like, what is that going to do to the optics of our entire industry? Which is an interesting question. No, San Francisco is a shit show. I mean, and that's a weird part about this too. This is where everybody gets pissed off at me. San Francisco is a shit show. I would not move to San Francisco. Save my fucking life. Last time I was in San Francisco was about 10 years ago. And it was fucking disgusting 10 years ago. Like, I remember when San Francisco was like considered like the utopia. You wanted to go to San Francisco. It hasn't been that way for a long time. But soldiers, soldiers is just not the particularly good way to go, I would argue. Elon Musk has backed Salesforce CEO Mark Beinoff's call for federal troops to be sent to San Francisco, a city that has become the latest flashpoint in the President Donald Trump's escalating campaign to deploy National Guard to Democratic-led cities, not to deploy federal assets. Right, to deploy National Guard. Quote, it's the only solution at this point, Musk wrote on Sunday on X. Nothing else has or will work. Yeah, building houses, definitely. You got all these homeless people here. I mean, nothing other than troops is gonna work. I mean, not like building houses, not like mental health care, not like actually supporting the population. Like, we could spend billions of dollars on supporting the population, but obviously that's not going to work. No, we need to send the troops in. Musk's endorsement came in response to a post by Tom Wolfe, a recovery advocate and former homeless resident, who cited data showing that more than 4,300 overdose deaths since 2020 and 90 kilograms of fentanyl seized by the San Francisco Police Department in the past year. Wolfe referenced a March 2025 survey by the conservative Voice of San Francisco, which found that 61% of voters support federal intervention to deport undocumented fentanyl dealers. Yeah, it's weird how they use these words. Look, 61% of the people support deportations. Yeah, illegal fentanyl dealers. I was surprised it was only 61%. Hey, do you think we should deport the illegal drug dealers? Oh yeah. What about the illegal people that are picking tomatoes? What about the illegals that are cleaning your hotel room? What about the illegals doing all of that? There is a difference between those two things. When those who somewhat agree are included, the total rises to 83%. Yeah, deporting undocumented drug dealers. I don't think that's a shocking response there. Anyways, quote, pretty much 80% of San Francisco wants federal intervention on deporting drug dealers, Wolfe wrote. That's how insane it's been here. I would think if you asked that of any American in any municipality, they would say that. But anywho, Musk emphasized that downtown San Francisco, quote, is a drug zombie apocalypse in another reply to a post by tech journalist Andrew Cote, who described Market Street as a disaster. Yes, we have a lot of desperate people in this country who see no way out. So to support those desperate people in the country, you're going to send in fucking soldiers. And this again, the fact that the Republicans, especially the Republicans under Trump, the fact that these bastards pretend to be Christians. Again, think about this for a second. How much money are we going to be spending for military, right? The military budget is going to $1 trillion, right? Remember Kucinich, 2004, one of the presidential candidates, he failed, right? He had the idea of the Department of Peace, and he got laughed out of the fucking room, right? The idea of coming up with a cabinet level department focused on peace, and he got laughed out of the room. The fucking Christians, right? The Christian right has embraced renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and then using the Department of War against the desperate in our country. And you wonder why I sneer at the fucking Christians. You fuckers better hope you are wrong. Every time you go to church, you better hope you are 100% incorrect, or the flesh is got to be flayed from your bones from eternity once you're out of this shithole. But anyways, the remarks followed Binoff's controversial comments to the New York Times on Friday, in which Salesforce CEO urged Trump to deploy National Guard to the city to, quote, refund the police. Again, there's a difference between refunding police and soldiers. Soldiers are fucking soldiers. You release the dogs of fucking war, and you just let them go do their fucking thing. Those are not fucking police officers. They should not be used as fucking police officers. Again, you think about a lot of these folks. You're a National Guard troop, right? You're 18. Again, in the United States, you can actually go and start. You can start serving at 17 if you get a waiver from your parents. So you might have young folks. Again, they get out of high school, they go off to basic and AIT, in the summer right after high school. They're now getting deployed in these situations. Think about this. Think about being a fucking 18-year-old, fresh the fuck out of basic training, being deployed into cities in the United States, not to provide food, not to provide water, not to put up tents for a disaster or emergency or something like that. You are being deployed with a weapon into the streets of the United States. And again, if you're one of these hicks, if you're a fucking hick from Louisiana, or you're a hick from Texas, or you're a hick from Ohio or Illinois or whatever else, and you're being sent into Chicago or into San Francisco, is that appropriate? Anybody who has carried a weapon in the real world, do you really think that is an appropriate utilization of soldiers? The only fuckers that would think this are fucking Call of Duty Rangers. Again, federal resources, yes. Even if you're gonna say military police, right? Military police, again, they are police. Yeah, they're military. Again, if you're deploying the military police, like, look, again, I'm not sure how, I'm not great on that, but it's like, look, okay, we're gonna be sending the MPs into these areas, again, for DWI checks, for that kind of thing. They're not even focused on the military police. Let's see, quote, we don't have enough cops, so if they can be cops, I'm all for it. Well, I mean, how hard is it to be a fucking cop? Look, I'm Mark Beinoff. I'm a fucking billionaire. I'm so fucking smart. How hard is it to be a cop? I don't know, any police officers watching? Hey, any police officers watching out there? Yeah. How do you feel about a tech oligarch piece of shit literally saying, well, if they can be cops? Obviously. If they can be cops, make them be cops. Anyways, I'm all for it. But enough said of the National Guard soldiers. So anyways, yeah, this is going to be curious as we go forward, right? The tech oligarchs, they're slobbering over Trump's ring for some reason. One minute of the Biden administration, everything is BLM. Now under the Trump administration, they're all for sending troops into American cities. Have I said fuck all these people? Fuck all these people hard. And anyways, and the important thing, like, I want you to be thinking about with this kind of thing too, is again, like, what's the appropriate utilization of resources? Like, are you assuming, because of your abject fucking ignorance and stupidity, are you making assumptions about people's capabilities that are simply inappropriate, right? Because again, I was supposed to get sent up to the World Trade Center. After that came down as part of a search and rescue team. Some things happened. Anyways, some stupidity. But again, my first sergeant who was up there, he was talking about it, right? You had these 18-year-old kids. You had September 11th, right? So as I understand, back then, infantry AIT was a lot shorter than it was. I think it was like 12 weeks, maybe 16 weeks, one station. So there's something, at least they had in the Army. So like, I went to basic, so I did eight weeks in basic, then I got shipped off to Gordon for my AIT. And so it was basic and AIT. For some of these other, especially the combat skills, they would actually mush basic and AIT together into one thing. And so it was like one party education, they come up with names. Anyways, so some of these fuckers, I think it was like 3 months. Like some of the kids that were being deployed to the World Trade Center, literally, they graduated high school, they partied their asses off, and they shipped off to basic. They got out of basic, like I say, at the end of like August. Because again, the entire training program for infantry at that time wasn't that long, and literally September 11th happened, and they get shipped off to do security, for September 11th, and my first sergeant said there was some brutal shit going on. Apparently, he saw one journalist get a fucking K-pot to the face. There was again, 18, 19-year-old or whatever. They're like, look, you can't take pictures. Back away. Journalists being journalists. Apparently, one of these kids had his fight. So the K-pot is the Kevlar helmet. Said, I told you to back off. Journalist didn't. Whack. And yeah, it's amazing. You don't hear about those stories. It's weird. No one talked about that kind of shit going on. And that's the other concerning too thing, like I say, with the military, is for all sides. Are they going to talk about when the soldiers do inappropriate things, right? So the people that deploy the soldiers aren't going to talk about it because, they don't want to be seen as what they are. And even the people on the other side, right? These soldiers are American citizens. These soldiers are young people. These soldiers are being put into a shit position because of a god-awful president. How comfortable are you bringing to light the abuses that these people will do? And that's the other concerning thing with this kind of thing too, is what happens when both sides of the aisle decide to downplay the abuses of these soldiers. I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a thing. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the tech oligarchs demanding that the only solution to homelessness is sending in the troops? Holy shit. What do you think about any of this? Are you a police officer? Are you a police officer? Are you like, wow, the tech oligarchs get me? Yeah, I mean, if a troop can be a police officer, why not? Anywho, put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron. Just be a real Lutnick and do it down there in the comment section. Do remember silicondojo.com is my pride and joy. Again, in-person, hands-on technology education to empower you to do whatever the hell it is that you want to do. Hopefully solve some problems in the real world. If you're interested, you can sign up for classes at silicondojo.com. And with that, see y'all later.